So I want to explain in this video, just real quick, how the three pillars of deduction all fit together. If you remember from the first video, the three pillars of deduction are observation, knowledge, and deduction. Okay, now deduction better described as being logic. The three steps are not steps. They're not steps because they're not independent of each other. It's not you do one, you do the next, and you do the third. But rather they're pillars of deduction. These are the foundation of how deduction works, and they all fit together in a specific way. Observation, obviously, comes first. You observe your surroundings. With all your senses, you gain information, and the key thing is you don't want to mix deduction into observation quite yet, because if you do, you risk coloring your observation of the facts with your initial theory. So if I see something and theorize about it too quickly, then I might accidentally give myself a bias. I'll look for things that support my theory and ignore things that don't. So you got to be careful not to do that. So try and observe as much as you can first, and then reason based on the things you observed. Now you can also eliminate possibilities. Like for example, if you see that someone is wearing well, you can eliminate certain possibilities, but you have to be careful about positives. Basically, if something you see can obviously eliminate a possibility entirely, then that's good, but be careful about ones that make you think, well, it's definitely this, because there are almost always exceptions to when using deduction. There's almost always going to be exceptions to so-called rules. So deduction is obviously the part where you take the information you observed and you reason with it. You put it all together logically. Think logically. Don't take anything you observed for granted. Most people will look at things and not think twice about them because they just take them as a given. You got to be very skeptical but very open-minded at the same time. That's kind of the balance. It's a delicate balance, but it's the key to thinking like Sherlock Holmes, is a balance between skepticism of absolutely everything but open-mindedness to absolutely anything. You don't want to discount any possibility without a good reason, and you don't want to accept anything as being guaranteed unless you have reason to accept it. So there's a balance, a very delicate balance there. Now knowledge is not a step, because knowledge is active throughout the entire thing. Knowledge fills in the gaps between what you observe and what you deduce, because there's knowledge that you possess that's sometimes common knowledge, sometimes common sense, sometimes very specific knowledge. I really like the very specific knowledge. Let me give you an example of how all these three steps work together in a very simple piece of deduction. I was deducing a picture somebody took of their desk. You've probably seen this on the internet. It's very popular for people to take pictures of their desks and have people deduce things about them. They had a book, a very thick book about Java, which previous knowledge tells me Java is a programming language, more likely than it is a very big thick book about Java, the coffee. Okay, that's probability. Now that's very simple. Everybody knows that pretty much. Well, not everybody, but that's an example of knowledge. Knowledge tells you which is more probable, a big thick book on somebody's computer desk about coffee or about a computer programming language. Anyway, he had a big thick book about Java, and he had his computer monitor sitting on top of it. Most people would look at this and say he's using the book to hold up his monitor, and that is true. But think about a little bit more than that. Why is he using this specific book to hold up the monitor? We can reason that he's probably not, previous knowledge, common knowledge, tells us that an object that you use often is you're not going to put it underneath a relatively permanent fixture like a computer monitor. So this means he's probably not using the book very often. Now it's possible that he read the book and just knows all of what's in it, except that the book is extremely thick. It's unlikely that this book is a reference book. This is not something like a dictionary. You don't read the dictionary. You go to it only when you need it. So this is the kind of book you go to when you need it. The fact that he put it underneath something is a relatively permanent fixture indicates that he doesn't need it all that often. He doesn't go to it very often. He doesn't need it all that often. Based on the fact that nothing else about his desk really indicated that he was much of a computer programmer, my reasoning then is that he was interested in computer programming, specifically Java, at some point in the past, but he's lost interest in it. And that was the correct answer. And it's really common sense whenever you think about it. I mean, if he's got a big thick book on Java, and he's not using it, obviously, or else it wouldn't be underneath a computer monitor, it's safe to assume that he doesn't use that book often, or doesn't have much need for that book, or else he wouldn't be using it to hold up his computer monitor. So that's a very simple example of how all three steps can be used together. I want to do a video talking more about in-depth deduction, because someone asked me about that in the comments, and I will do that. I just wanted to get this one first because this explains a simple process of deduction. I'll explain how you can go a little bit deeper in a future video. I hope to be able to do that one sometime in the next week. Also, I've got some links to some channels where you can learn more about deduction. I'll put those in the description below. Specifically, Art of Deduction, Sharonford, you probably heard of both of those, and Practical Deduction. He's got some good stuff coming out where he talks about how deduction can be applied in practical use in everyday life beyond solving mysteries. So definitely check his stuff out. Looks like I think it's pretty good. And that's about it. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.